Good evening, happy Monday, and welcome to the number one Group of Five college football show in the world. This is the Group of Five guys, and our mission is to be the voice for the Group of Five football programs, the voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely refuses to be. We need your help. We need you to hit the follow button on all the social media platforms at Group of Five guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. Most importantly, share the Group of Five guys with your family and friends. On this episode, our third conference preview show, we dig into the American Conference, which is maybe the deepest and most challenging conference it has been, certainly to make a prediction on. But hope you enjoy the show. This is the Group of Five guys, and we are coming to you live.
I admire how much focus and energy you're putting on this part of college football.
We looked at each other and we was like, Mike, the best place to be is a Group of Five. So I'm sitting here with the Group of Five guys, right?
Troy has won. It's been a winner, and it's a special place. So it's why you want the job.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, and fans follow that kid.
It was across there. You want to have this thing packed out, have the student section packed out, giving those guys hell on the sideline. I mean, that's part of it. I mean,
win or lose, like we're winning the tailgate.
There's no better place to be developed in this country than Boise State.
The American Conference had their media days last week, Jeff. A lot of good one-liners, a lot of good quotes from down there, some potential drama down there, or up there, I guess, in Charlotte, where they had the conference media days. But seemed like every head coach was calling it the Group of Six.
I did notice that.
I think our time is coming, Jeff.
Is it?
I need to. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
We might need to make a change.
I think we can stay. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. We've been talking about it. We'll keep.
Decide.
I mean, here's the funny thing about it is none of it is an official term. I mean, Group of Five was just a made-up term. Power Five, Power Four, made-up term.
Yeah.
Group of Six, made-up term. So,
I just think we played in the Group of Five era, regardless of what it ends up going to. I think we can keep the Group of Five moniker. We are the Group of Five guys.
I know.
So I tell you
what a time.
This conference was brutal to assess and figure out who's going to be favorites, contenders, all those things.
What's funny, man, is so I always any of these conferences that I do, we put our tiers together. We put kind of your favorites, your contenders, your dark horses, and everybody else. And I always start it like with what I think without looking like just based off last year, just relative news, kind of whatever pops in my head. I'm like, all right, here's the favorites. So I'm doing this one, and every team I got to, I started doing my first team right off the top of my head. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, they're winning this conference going away. Then I get down to my next team and I'm like, okay, yeah, they'll probably be in the championship game. They could win it, maybe. Then I get down to my next team and I'm like, oh man, they're really good here. Oh boy, their schedule sets them up pretty good. They might be in the championship game. And then I go all the way down. I'm like 6-7 teams in, and I'm like, boy, I got no idea which of these 6 or 7 are going to win this thing. And then I get to my bottom half, and it's kind of like, well, you know what? These teams got a real good chance to upset one of those other teams and really mess the whole thing up. So here we are, 7 minutes into the show, and Jeff, I still don't know who I'm picking.
I
have some notes, but I've flip-flopped on this one for sure. I mean, I'm like a politician, having an opinion on a bill going into this one. I have no idea. I'm just going to flip-flop 3 or 4 times between the show, and we'll see what happens in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one. We need to get into it.
Yeah, we need to get into it. Before we do, I know you see my East Carolina hat. That is from the game caps. We've talked about them for the last couple of weeks. You guys make sure you check them out. The game caps is what they are on social media. Check that out. I always mess that up. I say hats, caps, the game caps. But they sent us some super cool hats. They got kind of all these vintage, I guess you could call this 90s style hats. But make sure you check them out on all the socials and then go to their website, get you one. They got just about every program in the land. They've got multiple styles on there. So check them out. And then don't forget about our partners over at Gridiron Spice Company. Go to gridironspiceco.com. They've got 4 tailgate-specific seasoning blends. It is time. We have football in 3 weeks. Don't waste any more time. Go to gridironspiceco.com. Use our promo code GOFG for a 10% discount. Get you some of those seasonings. Get you ready for tailgate season. Now, 2024, the American Conference. Army West Point took down Tulane in a bludgeoning on the Hudson River. Jeff and I were honored to be in attendance for that game. What a spectacle. Just the whole thing incredible. Army wins that conference and then proceeds to lose to Navy a week later. But you look at this conference, I mean, Memphis was probably the favorite going in. And then they just had a couple of tough losses. Tulane, towards the end of the year, was making their case to jump Boise State, making their case to jump Arizona State. And then they just come out and we see the Memphis team that we thought we were going to see on Thanksgiving night. And they beat up on Tulane and kind of ruined the whole thing. And then, of course, you get the Darian Mensah saga going into the championship game, and Tulane looks like a shell of itself. And Army runs away with it. So, Jeff, in 2025, give me your biggest question mark and or your biggest storyline for the American Conference.
So I'm going to kind of stick right where you were, Sprouse. I'm going to go with, for the first time really in 4 seasons, Memphis is going to have a quarterback not named Seth Hennigan. So here's my question. Do they have a better chance, the same chance, or a worse chance having a different quarterback besides Seth Hennigan? Because Seth was great. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country, in my opinion, but just couldn't get the Memphis Tigers a conference championship. Great teams, great stats, a lot of great things over there, but not a conference championship. So does not having him make it better, the same, or worse? That's my question.
The answer that I would have had about a week ago might be different than I have here today, but we will get into that when we talk about Memphis. I've got a couple. So speaking of that, you know, one of the storylines, right, is all these transfer quarterbacks and which one is going to be the guy, whether it be Memphis with Brendan Lewis, whether it be Reese Poffenberger in North Texas, Caden Bellcamp going down to FAU. Number of transfer quarterbacks, and then there's the old steady and Blake Horvath at the Naval Academy. Which one steps up, you know, and is the guy in this conference this year? But I've got the other storyline that I have as I was doing my prep is, Jeff, if you like offensive line, which I know you don't, but I do, what a conference. I mean, you look at Army, you look at Navy, they're always good, right? You just watch those guys play. But then you look at UTSA, Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, North Texas. They've all got really, really good offensive lines. And I think that those offensive lines, as well as those transfer or non-transfer quarterbacks, are going to tell us a whole lot about this season. And then my question mark for this season, Jeff, is can one of the favorites in this conference actually complete the season without that one game where you're just like, what the hell was that? You look at Memphis last year, they had it against Navy where they just give up a ton of points and they just look kind of sloppy offensively. And then Tulane, they're the ones towards the end of the season, and then they just lay an egg against Memphis. And so, you know, which team, I mean, you look at Navy they're undefeated till they play Notre Dame, and then they look not so hot after that. So which one of these teams we're going to call a favorite or a contender is going to put together the entire season? And then can one of them not only put together their conference schedule, but put together their non-conference and make a run at Boise State or whoever's going to be in the mix for the playoff this year. So a lot of fun stuff to watch. A lot of big games right off the bat in this conference. Whew. Let's talk about some players, Jeff. Let's go offense first. Give me a player to watch, offensive side of the ball. Who we watching?
I mean, I'm going with the man you just mentioned, Blake Horvath, the man himself. I mean, you talk about really having a Heisman type year last year and then gets banged up and is out for a little bit. But, 1,300 yards, 13 passing touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, but then an additional 1,200 yards on the ground, 17 rushing touchdowns for Horvath. The kid's going into his senior year. He's got all the talent on the offense back around him. I mean, in my opinion, one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the American, but in the entire country, and has a favorable schedule draw this year. Should be up for Offensive Player of the Year as long. This is going to be my caveat for Blake Horvath this entire year, and it's a valid one just because of the way he plays. Can he stay healthy the entire year? Because he's not built like Captain America. He's faster, in my opinion. He's maybe a little bit more elusive, but I mean, you're talking about taking a pounding every game. And in this conference, there's some good physical defensive fronts. He's got to make sure that he protects himself because he's more valuable than the extra 2 or 3 yards sometimes. So he's just got to be smart. But Blake Horvath, keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, I like that pick, Jeff. And I think he throws it better. Last year we were
100%.
saying Navy throws it better than Army did a year ago. But you mentioned being built a certain kind of way, and that's just kind of what that Army team was. Speaking of built a certain kind of way, speaking of Army, speaking of Navy, I told you I like offensive line, Jeff. And I talked about this towards the end of last year. Army's I'm going to say Brady Small, the center for Army, but you can put the entire offensive line on there. When you watch them play and you watch them get freaking 3 and 4 foot splits, they look like their offensive line looks like they're in a spread. And you just watch them come off the ball and the entire defensive line moves as if they're hitting bags. It looks like they're hitting the sled, Jeff. They run. It's as if they're not even a defender there. They just come off the ball, guys in the way, and they just take them right there with them. They go on the ride. We were up there at West Point. You see them play a Tulane defensive line that was stout. And, I mean, you thought they were playing against the scout team. I mean, the way it looked out there. And so watch that Army offensive line. Watch all these offensive lines, but that Army one is fun to watch, especially, man, if you're a freaking young kid, maybe you're undersized or something, you want to go play O-line and have some fun. Don't sleep on these academy teams now. They have some fun on offensive line. What about on defense? Who you got?
I'm going with a guy I actually talked about last year on the Conference USA preview show, transferring over to Tulane. And I could have used him as the most impactful transfer, but I had another one that I wanted to use. I'm going with Sprouse. You're going to love this. Tulane defensive end, number 0, Mo Westmoreland. This guy is an absolute dog. I'm telling you, I was talking about him last year, and he was at UTEP, 7.5 sacks a year ago, 45 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Guy sits at 6'2", 250, can really get around the edge, has great hands, especially that first strike when you're getting engaged into that tackle, and can really bend it and get around the edge. And I think he's going to benefit being on this John Sumrall Tulane defense because they got some other pieces on that D-line. He's going to see a lot more, one-on-one coverage at Tulane, I think, than he did at UTEP, kind of being the focal rusher last year with UTEP. So Mo Westmoreland, man, keep an eye out for him. I think he can get to double-digit sacks. I really do.
Nice pick. I'm sticking on the front lines, and I'm going to Navy, and I'm looking at the nose tackle, Landon Robinson. Typical fashion for an academy guy. He's a little bit undersized for an interior defensive lineman, but he's super athletic, a freak athlete. Great hands, great feet. You remember that fake punt against Army? The guy looks like a fullback running the ball at almost 300 pounds, Jeff. So when you talk about these offensive and defensive lines for these academies, yeah, they might be undersized, but the athleticism that these guys have and the quickness in their feet and their hands, something special, buddy. It's something special.
Noticing a trend here, Sprouse. A lot of academy talk.
Well, Jeff, I got a hard on just talking about it, pal. I mean, it's unbelievable. What about a transfer? There's so many great transfers in this conference. Give me one that's going to make a huge impact.
I think the one that's going to have the biggest immediate impact, and you're going to see it right away, is Caden Veltkamp, quarterback from Western Kentucky, going down to FAU, teaming back up with Zach Kitley. Now, Zach Kitley recruited him when he was at Western for that 1 year, but they were never actually in the same on the same program. But he goes down there. This kid can do it all. He's 6'6", 230 pounds, had 3,100 yards a year ago, 25 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions, and 7 rushing touchdowns as well. Like I said, he can get outside of the pocket and run, especially with that big frame. He's not going to run away from anybody, but he's elusive enough to make guys miss, which is super important in the pocket too. Hard to get him down as a big guy. And then he's going to have talent all over the field. He's got a receiver that came with him from Western who's going to have a good year as well. So I just think that Zach Kitley offense, he's going to throw it 40, 50 times a game. So you got a quarterback that knows that system coming down, and it's going to be fun to watch. FAU's the team now. Got to keep an eye out for these Owls.
You're going to score some points. That
Yes,
is
they
for
are.
sure. Well, Jeff, I like that pick, and you could have went any route with these quarterbacks. You could have went Brendan Lewis at Memphis. You could have went Veltkamp. We love an FCS quarterback, don't we, Jeff?
Yes, we
We've
do.
had ever since Tyler Tipton brought up Bailey Zappi going over to Western Kentucky with Zach Kitley, by the way, coming over from Houston Baptist. We've been on these FCS quarterbacks. Now, most of them have ended up at Western Kentucky, it seems. But Reese Poffenberger,
Great name.
okay, great name. Okay, he was at Miami last year. Now, he was going to go be the savior down there in Coral Gables until the first overall pick showed up in Cam Ward. But you go back and look at his career at Albany. The Great Danes, 6,000 career passing yards in 2 seasons. And the one thing about him, Jeff, he throws a dime on the move often. So he's a guy, I couldn't tell you how many times as I'm watching his tape, bad snap or running back goes the wrong way or something, some stupid breakdown happens, and he's immediately having to take off and run, whether it be across his body, whether it be throwing backside. On the run, he's throwing it all over the field, and he's pretty damn athletic himself now. So we know North Texas. We know what North Texas is going to score some points.
Yep.
Well, now you bring this guy that adds a whole nother element to that offense. So FAU is going to score some points. North Texas is going to score some points.
Not sure if they're going to be able to stop anybody.
That's what we're worried about. That's what we're going to have to talk about as we go into these team breakdowns. But, going to be fun. Well, let's do the conference champs. We got to start with the defending champs.
Absolutely.
Army. I'll tell you where I have them. I don't have them as a favorite. I have them as a contender. Anytime you lose a quarterback like that, and then use the running back to the transfer portal, you lose 3 offensive linemen. However, you do bring back 2 offensive linemen. I talked about their center, Brady Small, a minute ago. Noah Short is going to be the number 1 focal point on offense. 569 yards rushing and another 318 receiving. I know that doesn't sound crazy, but 318 receiving at a place like Army is pretty damn impressive. So this offense is going to go as him and the quarterback go. And then defensively, they only allowed 15 points a game last year. So I think their defense is still going to be good. A lot of that has to do with the offense and time of possession. But I think they're going to – listen, this is Army, right? That's what they do. They control the clock. They control time of possession. They run the hell out of the ball, and they get stops. And I'll tell you, I don't know if it's just the way my algorithm works, but I talked about this a few weeks ago, and I posted about it on Twitter the other day. Them guys and their workouts and their weight program, it is like strong. They are just strong. And I think one of their guys said somebody said it was violent, the way they were doing hang cleans. And everything that they do inside that weight room is violent. And that's the way they play on the field, especially the way, again, those offensive and defensive lines come off the ball. Violent, fast, quick. So, you lose the quarterback, sure, but don't sleep on this team.
Yeah, I kind of had him in the same boat. I'm putting him as a contender. A lot of respect for Jeff Monken and what he's been able to do, reloading year after year pretty much. And, Dwayne Coleman's, as far as my research has gone, seems like he's going to be the guy. He's not anywhere near the physical type of runner that Captain America was, but he's definitely a little bit more elusive. Not super familiar with the under center kind of wing T triple option stuff. A lot more gun zone read triple option. So interested to see if maybe they do a little bit more of that. But he's getting a full offseason this year. You know, he went in there at times last year, and it wasn't the same style of offense. But I'm kind of chalking that up simply because he didn't have first team reps all offseason. So I think, like you said, Kanye Ito being gone, it's a 1,000-yard rusher. You're just losing a lot of production in pretty much the two most important positions on Army's offense. But I think the defense is going to be good again, even though they lost a couple leaders on that side of the ball too. Just the way they play, physicality, all the things you mentioned. I have Army as a contender. Just giving them the respect I think they deserve that. Even losing the top two guys.
I agree, and that's where I had them too. And typically you would worry, you lose a guy like Bryson Daly, you would worry about the locker room and the culture and all of those things. But you got Jeff Monken at the helm there. Like, that's not going away, and it's Army. Those are like, you got to see those kids a little bit and be around them for a couple days when we were up there, and like that's just the culture of the school. I mean, that's just the culture of all those guys. Now, you had a guy that took it a step further in Bryson Daly and the culture and just the physicality of it. But look, I mean, these guys are still going to be, again, we've been talking about violent, hard-nosed, tough, physical. That's West Point, and so that's not going anywhere, and that's Jeff Monken. Now, how the hell Jeff Monken is still at West Point, I mean, I'm sure it's credit to him because I'm sure he has been offered almost a blank check and seems to be turning them down and hanging around there. But I had him right there as a contender.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say about him before we move on is I think their schedule sets up pretty nice as well when you look at it. You get Tarleton State and then at Kansas State, which, I mean, that's a winnable Power 4 matchup in my opinion. And then you get right into conference with North Texas and a couple of these schools, but you avoid Memphis, you avoid South Florida and FAU, which I think are three of the better teams in conference. So I think it does set up, pretty nice, but you do have to go on the road, ECU, Tulane, San Antonio, and then at Air Force as well. So that's a bit of a tough road schedule for Army, but we'll see what happens. I'm definitely not counting them out.
Yeah, and you also, when you talk about teams that they avoid, you got to look at this now when we're at a spot where both Army and Navy are good, they always avoid each other in conference. So something to think about. Brought it up last year. People didn't seem to like it. So
14 teams, that's what you get. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I mean, it's so much in every conference so far that we've had because there's no more divisions.
Yep.
It's a lot of it hinges on the draw of the schedule, and it's out of pretty much everyone's control. You just get what you get.
Yep. Yeah, and we talked about this last week. When we were talking Conference USA, and then we were talking Mountain West. Is like sometimes like it's all gotta fall for you. When you have your good team, it still has to line up where your schedule lines up, your health lines up. Everything's still got to line up perfectly. So unfortunately, sometimes you might have. I mean, you look at a team like South Florida last year, and possibly this year. I mean, they got a great roster. They got tons of talent all over the place. They got high expectations, but they got a schedule that's as hard as anybody in the country. So maybe they get through it, but maybe they don't. And it looks like, oh, maybe they weren't that good. It's like, you know what, man, maybe they just had a tough break and the best team that they could put on the field also showed up at the time when they had the hardest schedule they've had to play. So we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but so you got Army as a contender. I do too. Who do you have as a favorite in this conference?
I'm just going to go ahead and get it out of the way because they've been a little ill towards us, periodically. Their fan base anyway is the Memphis Tigers. I think they're definitely one of the favorites in this conference. Offensively, obviously Seth Hennigan, like I stated, is gone, but you get a good senior quarterback coming in, transfer Brendan Lewis from Nevada, very productive last year, 2,300 yards, 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Another 750 yards on the ground with 8 more rushing touchdowns. So the kid is a true dual threat quarterback, can take it the distance, can make plays with his feet. And I think he gives this offense an element that Hennigan could run, but he could not run like this kid can. So I'm interested to see if Silverfield, puts in some more zone read quarterback run type of offense to kind of change it up because you get that extra blocker. But then they do have a freshman quarterback, 4-star, Sprouse, I know you're into the stars. AJ Hill
it.
from Warner Robins, Georgia. Now, this kid's 6'5", 220. Has all the accolades as a high school quarterback you could possibly want. They flip him. I can't remember what school he's committed to off the top of my head, but interested to see that there is some competition, I think, in that room. I think you go with the senior to start the year just because of his experience. And then Sutton Smith returns. He was out last year with an injury. You lose your top two running backs a year ago. Interesting, Frank Peasant shows up on this roster, former MTSU running back. And then on the outside, I think they're very good, even though they lost the two of my favorite receivers in the group of five last year in Rock Taylor and Demir Blankhamsey. I'm not sure they've quite replaced them, but I think they've added guys that are better in other areas. And Jaden Thompson, who's a Louisville transfer at 6'2", 190, had some decent stats there. And then C.J. Smith transferring from Purdue by way of Georgia, 6'3", 175. Not a ton of film on this kid, but the stuff that I did find really is huddle film. Kid can absolutely fly. Long strider. As soon as he gets the ball, he's running past people on go routes. So it'd be interesting to see if they can really press the field vertically with him. And then Brady Cluse is another solid receiver, returns from a year ago, knows this offense. So I think he'll be kind of a regular blanket for whoever the quarterback's going to be. And then defensively, a lot of new faces. So that's my biggest concern with Memphis. And I'll let you kind of get into it before we get into the schedule.
Well, Jeff, you hit just about every single thing I had on my notes here. I had Frank Peasant on my notes too, just because this guy's played in 5 seasons already. Like, it wasn't like he's, I don't know. I don't understand it, but going for a 6, he'll be, he'll probably be the second or third back on the team. But anytime you got to replace a 4-year starter, it's tough. But I brought this up to you the other day. This reminds me a little bit of when South Alabama went from Carter Bradley to Gio Lopez, where I don't think anybody would say that Gio Lopez is a better quarterback than Carter Bradley. I mean, Carter Bradley obviously is still hanging around with your Raiders, I believe.
Yep.
Nobody's going to sit here and say Brennan Lewis is better than Seth Hennigan, but he does bring a dynamic to the offense that Hennigan didn't. And Hennigan was a pretty good athlete, just didn't often use, his legs very much. But Brennan Lewis will do that. And so you almost look at, like, maybe he's not a better quarterback, but he does bring an extra thing. Defensive backs got to have their eyes a little differently. Linebackers are a little differently. Defensive ends can't just get upfield, you know what I mean? Because he can take off. So there's a different dynamic to the offense where he's not a better quarterback than Seth Hennigan, but I think he gives them a layer to the offense that might make the offense as a whole better. Now, replacing those wide receivers and some of the other stuff, that's the question mark. But the offensive line is full of transfers, but it's full of transfers that have played a ton of football. It's not like some of these guys where you bring in 6 offensive line transfers from, Power 4, but they've not played at all. So they've got some guys that have played a lot of football, started a lot of games. They just got to find 5 that fit right, and they're going to have a very good offensive line. And then defensively, it's full of transfers too. Same thing. These guys have played some ball. I like the defensive end. William Whitlow, first-team all-conference guy a year ago, had 4 sacks. So he's going to be your guy to pressure all these quarterbacks that we've been talking about this show. So I look at Memphis. I have them as a favorite also. We thought that was my question mark. When will one of these favorites play the full season? Memphis is a prime example of that. I mean, they'll win 10 games every single year, and that's one of the qualms that the fan base has with the coach is we got all this talent. We got a really good team, and we play really good most of the time. When are we going to play really good all of the time and make a run at this playoff? If you're Memphis, it's all realistic for you. Their Big 12 bid appears to have gotten denied for whatever the reason may be. Seems like maybe it's kind of a bias against the city of Memphis or against the demographic or something like that for the Big 12 not wanting them. I don't know. That's all speculation. But you got what you need in the American.
Yeah.
I mean, you go win this conference and you're in. You know what I mean? You put together a schedule. You look at you were going to bring up their schedule, so let's go ahead and do it. Who do they have in their non-conference? Arkansas?
Yeah, I mean that's their big one, right? But it sets up nice because you get Chattanooga to open the year, which is a good tune-up. Then you're on the road at Georgia State. I think Georgia State will be a good team, but Memphis should handle them, right? Then you go on the road at Troy, be a tough one, but again, like you have the money in NIL. You've spent the money in NIL. So you should have better athletes than they do. And then you get Arkansas at home. That's going to be a big one. That I hope the Liberty Bowl is sold out. I hope it's packed. I hope they're, 3-0 going into that game. And like you stated, they have everything they want right here in the American. And this schedule sets up exactly what they need to be the playoff rep. If you can run the table, even if you lose to Arkansas, if you can handle your business in conference, win the American, and you end up the season with 1 or 2 losses at the most, you got a chance because you avoid Army, you avoid UTSA, you avoid North Texas, and then you get South Florida, Tulane, and Navy all at home. I don't know if there's a better schedule draw than Memphis has, and then all the other teams they have in conference were sub 500 teams a year ago, and a lot of them with new coaches. So if this is the year, might be it, for Memphis to make a run, but we'll see.
If you're Memphis, and I know this doesn't necessarily affect the way players play on the field or coaches coach or any of that, but it definitely affects the way the fans are. If you're upset about this Big 12 thing, you go run through this American Conference, you go beat Arkansas, and then you make a Big 12 team come to Memphis anyway for a damn playoff game. That's what you do. That's how you answer it. And then you make a run. I mean, then you make a run, and then they got no choice. If you still want out, then they've got no choice. You got no choice to take you at that point. Maybe somebody, the Big 12, I mean, we're going to be group of 7 before long. So you might want to hold off on that one. I mean.
Yeah, just spending money for no reason when we're all going to be in the same boat in a couple years.
But I'll tell you, Jeff, what scares me, though. Tell you what scares me a whole lot about this Memphis schedule. Because, yeah, you're right. I think Arkansas, I mean, that's very winnable. But then they got to go down to Boca Raton and play FAU the following week. That's the kind of thing that happens to Memphis. You're going to look defensively lights out against Arkansas, play their ass off. They win that game, or even if they lose it, it's a great game. Then they go down to FAU and give up 60 points. That would be the typical thing. But hopefully they don't.
Well, one last thing that I'll say, and it really has nothing to do with Memphis other than Arkansas's highly touted quarterback now, and Tulane Green actually played in the Liberty Bowl a few years ago, got pulled from the game. Old Maddox Madsen went into the game. So he didn't have a great track record playing in the Liberty Bowl. So that'd be a fun one to watch. Just kind of, minor storyline underneath the surface.
Yeah. Yep. Something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I had him right there as a favorite. The other favorite I had, Jeff, is Navy. I just think Blake Horvath is the real deal. 1,300 yards rushing, 1,300 yards passing is about as balanced as an academy offense can be to throw it for that much. They're going to throw it 10 to 12, maybe 14 times a game, which is a bit more than your typical academy offense. Their O-line, little bit inexperienced, but I think having that more balanced offensive attack when they throw it a little bit, I think that helps the inexperienced O-line just a little bit. So I think they'll be just fine. 5 of their top 6 defensive linemen return. They got depth on defense. And I also think their schedule is pretty manageable. I mean, listen, they're going to be 8-0 before they go play Notre Dame. You look at that schedule.
Should be.
Right? Should be. So you got VMI, you got UAB, you're at Tulsa. Well, then I got a freaking thing blocking my schedule here, so I can't even see it. But you got Rice. Then who? I can't see the thing.
You got UAB at Tulsa, Rice, Air Force, at Temple, FAU at home, at North Texas.
And then at North Texas. And then you're at Notre Dame. Now, after that slate, you go at Notre Dame, then you get South Florida, and then you're at Memphis on Thanksgiving Day on a Thursday night in Memphis. And then, of course, you have Army that doesn't count for conference. But Navy's got a chance to just, again, be sitting there at 8-0. But they were, like we talked about earlier in the show, they were sitting there like that last year. And then it just didn't pan out. But I think they're a little bit better. Obviously, the quarterback's another year under his belt, right? You mentioned his health. But look, man, you don't play Tulane, you don't play UTSA, and then Army's a non-conference game. So I look at this Navy team like it's on a platter for you if you're Navy. You just got to capitalize.
It really is. And I was like in between contender and favorite just because their defense worries me a little bit. But with the way their offense plays, that's what makes these academy defenses on paper and on the stat sheet really be a lot better than what they truly are, I think, because you're just chewing up time of possession. It just comes down to Horvath. Got to stay healthy. I know he got banged up a little bit last year, but I had him as a contender. I did not have him as a favorite just because I felt like I had too many favorites, but I'm fine. I'm totally fine with them being a favorite because if you like, again, kind of like Memphis, you know, UAB, Tulsa, Rice, all sub 500 teams from a year ago with new coaches. Like you should be able to handle your business with the teams in conference out, you know, and then like you said, that Notre Dame, South Florida, Memphis 3-week stretch is what makes me nervous about Navy. Just it's gonna be physical. It's gonna be physical games back to back to back.
Yeah, and you know, if Navy is going to be the real deal, that Notre Dame game matters more so than you're probably thinking because they also play Boise State. So if Navy comes out of the American and if Boise comes out of the Mountain West, what are they going to look at? They're going to say, well, okay, well, let's see how they did against this common opponent. And Notre Dame's the one.
Yep.
So now you'll see. Now Notre Dame, I mean, they think, you know, Notre Dame, somebody was on Twitter talking about watching something with Notre Dame, and they were talking about how hard their schedule was and how Boise was like the easiest game on their schedule. Then I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe they do have a tough. And then I saw they play Purdue, they play NC State, they play Syracuse, Boston College. I'm like, which one of these teams is better than Boise State? I mean, maybe if they think Lincoln Riley and USC is back again, and maybe if they think Miami is back again, then maybe, but Boise's the only playoff team on the schedule. I mean, so
that's a good point.
I don't know, but anyway.
Do shout out Navy though. They're my team in the online dynasty with the Green Wave man. Shout out Green Wave man who's in the chat. 5-1 right now, Sprouse, and Eli Heidenreich is Heisman leader.
Who'd you lose to?
Lost to UAB early in the season.
Oh boy.
Yeah, a couple fumbles. We're still working through the triple option. Had some bad.
Now,
fumbles.
Is that tough in the game to run it?
It is when you've never really ran it before, but now I kind of got it down, and we got some things cooking. Put it that way.
So now, do you in the game? I mean that fullback dive is so quick. Like, do you have that option, like to give it?
Yeah, you got to read it. You got to read it out. You can pull it and then get on the edge or give it, depending on the front, and if the end crashes. It's good stuff.
Now your angle though. Do you have like the quarterback's eyes to see?
Yeah, because you guys just know who you're reading on what particular play.
Yeah,
but sometimes.
But then you got to like push a specific button to give it, push a specific button to
so if you
keep
don't,
it.
So when you snap it, if you don't hold A, it'll give it to the fullback. If you hold A, it'll pull it, and you can wait. Like it gives you a little bit of time, but I mean you got to make the decision relatively quick, and then we're on the edge, pitching it out. But sometimes you get some weird like pitches, and then it'll just randomly shoot backwards. Like it's it is a game.
Yeah,
so
you can throw it a mile, can't pitch it 3 yards. Anyway, anything else you got on Navy, Jeff?
No, I like the midshipmen.
So you're right. You could have anybody as a favorite. I kept it at Memphis and Navy, and then I pretty much have everybody else as a contender. But who else did you have as a favorite? Because there's a couple that you could go with.
I got the UTSA Roadrunners as a favorite. I think with all the talent they have coming back, really on both sides of the ball, especially offense though. Outside of Blake Horvath, and he's such a unique player in that offense. I think Owen McCown is probably the best, like, true quarterback in this conference. Now, struggled a little bit last year, but I think he's going to have a big year. 34, and I say struggled, really just mainly the interception side of things. 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, did have the 10 picks, another 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground, but he's got the pedigree, got the family lineage. You get Robert Henry coming back, who's it's going to be a top back. You have Amarian Peterson transferring from USC. Bryson Donald returns as well. Leading wideout Willie McCoy is back. Devin McEwen. A.J. Wilson transfers from Houston Christian. We talked about the FCS transfers all the time, right? 6'2", 185.
Houston Christian in particular has some good transfers.
Used to be Houston Baptist.
Correct.
By the way.
Correct.
825 yards, 8 touchdowns, averaged 28 yards per reception. And it was like the tape I could find on him, it was like every time this guy was catching the ball, it was an explosive play or a touchdown. It was crazy. So they got weapons, and then two of the better tight ends in the conference in Houston Thomas, Patrick Overmeyer. I mean, this offense is loaded with talent. You're going to have a great offensive line as well. Defense worries me a little bit. 2 starters coming back. Shad Banks transfers from TCU by way of Texas A&M should be productive on defense at the linebacker spot. But then again, their schedule was the other reason why I had them as a favorite.
Yeah, don't play Memphis, don't play Navy. You brought up the tight ends. I mean, traditionally when UTSA is good, they got a good tight end. And I like Houston Thomas, 470 yards last year. Defense, they lost everything.
I know.
Especially up front. They lost everybody. But, you know, everybody's got transfer. You know what I mean? It's losing everybody, keeping everybody now is like, doesn't matter quite as much, I would say. But you know what they do have? 7 offensive linemen on their roster started. Now, these are 3 of them were at UTSA. The other 4 are transfers. Started at least 9 games in last year or the year before. So you got guys that have played in and started a ton of football games. So you're going to have depth on the offensive line. You talked about Owen McCown. 10 interceptions. He's not horrible, but you'd like to see that. Where do you want to see that, Jeff? 7, 8, 6?
I think
0.
The elite ones protect the ball. You're talking. You can chalk up 3 or 4 that are kind of like, maybe tip ball, something weird happen. That 5 or 6 range is about, in my opinion, where you want to see if he wants to be an elite quarterback, and which I think he has all the tools to be. And then the last thing we had, Sprouse, we talked about him last year, right? They play really well at home. Well, guess who they have at home this year? Tulane, ECU, and Army, all in the Alamo Dome. Lost a lot of games on the road last year. Believe all their road games, if I'm not mistaken. So to see that the tougher opponents are at home this year, I think that benefits them. It's tough to play in that darn Alamo Dome, man. We went there a few years ago for the Conference USA Championship. It was loud. It was really, really loud. It affects the games in a lot of ways.
You know, in the non-conference, that game when they get Texas State at home is going to be absolutely insane. I mean, especially the way that Texas State blew them out last year. The Alamo Dome is going to be absolutely electric.
Sold out. I wonder if they open up the upper deck. Remember, it was closed?
Yeah, they should. I mean, why not? Make some more money.
Yeah.
Stuff some more people in that thing.
They cranked up.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about them building like an on-campus or an outdoor. I think, man, I get it. I do. But it's not going to be the same because you're going to have people that are going to complain. Right now, you got people complaining, it's off campus, blah, 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 this and that. It's not our own stadium. But then you're going to have people that are going to complain, it's 110 degrees out here. Like, I'm not going to this. Keep what you got, man. And then, listen, if you put 20,000 in an outdoor stadium, it sounds like 20,000. But you put 20,000 in the Alamo Dome, it sounds like 50 or 60,000. So keep that home field advantage. You're winning there. You know what I mean? You don't change that up. But, only other guy I had on here, Vic Shaw, is going to be kind of your stand-up edge rusher. UTSA seems to pump those out. So not a ton of numbers, not a ton of, film on him, but he's going to be the guy to look for on that UTSA defense. But I had them as a contender, Jeff. One of many.
Okay.
One of many contenders.
Did you have any other favorites?
No, I'm telling you, dude, originally when I did this, top of my head, no research, not even looking at the roster, Navy was the only team I put in there, and I almost left it there. Because then I was like, well, okay, I could put UTSA in there. And I was like, okay, I could put Memphis. I could put Tulane. I could put Army. And so I was like, I think people are talking about Navy as one of, if not the favorite. So that's kind of the way I kept it. But I had Navy and Memphis as favorites. I had UTSA down here as a contender with Army. And Well, hold on. You got more favorites then.
I had one more, and the main reason why
Tulane.
I could have, I mean,
yeah.
And only really, I did not have them as a favorite until last week. But here,
what happened last week, Jeff, with Tulane?
I'll get into it, but let me just explain why I have so many favorites. I think one of these 3 teams, and we'll throw Navy in there, 4 teams, is going to be one of the teams that wins it all. But to me, there's not like a clear cut, this is the team. So that's why I had so many favorites for this conference, whereas as some of the other shows we've had, I've only had 1, maybe 2. But yeah, I have Tulane. And, in the offseason, obviously Mensa leaves for Duke. Great storyline there coming up. You get all these transfers coming in. Brendan Sullivan from Iowa, Caden Simonza from Ball State, Donovan Leary from Illinois. And I was like, well, I really don't. I'm not sold on any of these guys. I don't necessarily think they're the answer. But then, oh boy, Jake Retzlaff, BYU gets kicked out.
Jake Retzlaff decided to have relations with a young lady.
Yes, he did.
Found his way to New Orleans.
Premarital relations. Who would have thought? Goes down to New Orleans. I think it's official at this point that he's going to be enrolled. Now, you got a lot to learn in a short amount of time. You basically have camp, which is condensed and all these things, right? But I think that he was the piece for me as far as from a quarterback standpoint and athletic standpoint is what they were missing offensively. I think they got good running backs. I think they got great receivers. They've been able to kind of reload after losing a lot of pieces. But man, Jake makes them a different team offensively. And then the defense, I think this is going to be one of the best defenses that Summerall's had. I talked about Mo Westmoreland transferring from UTEP. You got Santana Hopper coming from App State, 36 tackles, 5 sacks last year. Cameron Hamilton returns after having 4.5 sacks. I mean, you're talking some elite pass rushers, and you know that Summerall has churned them out over the years. Not only conference leaders in sacks, but nationwide leaders in sacks. So I think this defense is going to be the best that he's had in a really long time, and that's saying something. Coming from Summerall. So I think Jake Retzlaff makes this offensive dangerous if he can come in and learn. A lot of ifs, right? A lot of ifs. But he's got all the tools at his disposal on that offense, and then the defense really carries this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're spot on the defense. I think it's going to be certainly one of the better ones in the conference. And you can look at his first year at Troy, that defense, or this one, I think, very, very similar. And I mean, that defense was in the teens, 14 or 15 points a game, I believe, that Troy defense. 20 points a game last year here at Tulane. We know he can coach defense. We know they'll be good. One thing we also know about Coach Summerall is he don't care who's supposed to be the guy at quarterback. He's going to play who he thinks. Now, the question is, how quick does he hand the keys to Jake Retzlaff, right? Because I don't know. Is he there now? I mean, camp is probably starting today. They're probably reporting.
He's got to be there, I would assume.
Yeah, so, I mean, he didn't have spring. He didn't have summer workouts. But that guy, I mean, it was because of him that BYU had some really high hopes this year. So now you go down there and supposedly he's walking on. I mean, I don't know. He probably not sweating it, or he's got some NIL.
Committed as far as,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, when we had Coach Summerall on in the spring, he admitted it was a very unproven roster, very unproven, inexperienced roster. He knew they had guys, but he wasn't too sure about it. Now, here's the thing about Tulane and the schedule. They better be sure about it real quick. They got Northwestern. Then they go at South Alabama, who, by the way, I think is going to be the best South Alabama team in a very long time. Then you have the big one against Duke at home. Then you're at Ole Miss. So you look at Tulane last year, you look at Troy the last couple years. They played great games against Ole Miss and against Kansas State, I think it was, and they didn't win those games. You're going to have to find a way. You look at those 4 games to come out at minimum 2-2. Hopefully 3-1. I mean, hey, you'd like to be 4-0. Ole Miss is going to be the toughest of that bunch. But if you can come out of there 3-1, then you got yourselves a chance, because then you'll be, again, you want to be in this thing early in the season, because then when you go and you play your conference teams, every week you win, you're going to step up 1 or 2 spots in the poll. But you've got to come out of there 3-1 at 2-2 at minimum, at the worst. But you come out of there 1-3 or worse, I mean, season's over for the playoffs.
Yeah, but I don't think Summerall. I mean, obviously that's the goal, right? Is to make the playoff, but you got to win conference before you do anything. And it's definitely not an easy slate to start the year. But I think by the time that Ole Miss game is over, I think that we'll have an idea of who that quarterback is going to be going into the rest of the year. And Jake's the most physically talented from an arm standpoint, from an total package standpoint, can read defenses, can deliver the ball on time. It's just, can he pick everything up in 30 some odd days? It's a question to me.
Yeah. And then what do they do on offense? What do they change to fit him? And then what do they put in these? I mean, you literally got like 2.5 weeks of camp now, and it's a very half measure camp compared to what it was back in our day, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that sad? We're saying back in our day, how?
Yeah, 15 years ago.
If it was 15 years ago, yeah.
Getting old, brother.
Yeah, we are. Anyway, one more thing on Tulane, because we haven't talked about it. But again, offensive line. Their offensive line is big time. Want to highlight Shadre Hurst, 3-year starter there on the interior. That's your NFL guy on that offensive line. So if you're a Tulane fan and you care at all about the offensive line, watch Shadre Hurst in there in the interior of that line. He's a damn good player.
You get App State transfer Jack Hollifield too. I think he'll probably end up being the starting center this year. Darn good player as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but I had Tulane as a contender. But again, contenders and favorites for me in this conference could flip-flop.
Either way.
Could go as we go. Now I had one more contender. Did you have any more as a favorite?
I had one more. No, favorites are done. I had one more contender.
You know who it is, Jeff.
I know exactly who
They've been a contender for me for a decade. The South Florida Bulls, my friend.
Tell me about them.
Well, Jeff, the problem with the South Florida Bulls is this is the most difficult 3-game stretch to start a season out of any team in the country. Because I went and looked, right? I went and took my group of 5 blinders off, and I was like, well, Texas and Ohio State play early in the year. Notre Dame and Miami play earlier in the year. Florida State and Alabama play early in the year. So maybe Alabama plays Florida State, and then, they get into the SEC, and it's tough. Nobody does. They all have an FCS game or a bye week or both after these big week 1 and week 2 ball games. Not the South Florida Bulls. They sure as hell don't, because they got to play Boise State at home week 1. Then they got to go on the road to Florida, who everybody expects to, DJ Lagway, everybody expects Florida to be a contender in the SEC. And then they got to go down to Miami and play at Miami, who everybody thinks Carson Beck and Miami are going to be, the ACC favorites or second favorites in that conference. So those 3 games, we've talked about this with every conference, and we talk about teams having brutal schedules to open this. It does not get more brutal than this 3-game stretch that South Florida has, especially given the fact that 2 of them are on the road. The only benefit that they have is Boise's coming there, and it's a long way to go. It's going to be hot. It's going to help South Florida quite a bit. But the other benefit is, if you're South Florida, if you come out of there anything other than 0-3, I mean, if you win any one of those games, you got a chance, because if you beat Boise, then win the American. Even if Boise has that only 1 loss, and maybe you do lose to Miami and Florida, but if you beat Boise head-to-head, Boise wins the Mountain West with 1 loss, your 2 loss, you win the American, but you beat Boise head-to-head, you got a pretty good argument. You don't beat Boise, but you go beat either Miami or Florida, and they end up having decent seasons, you might find yourself. And then again, you still have to get through the American, which is just as hard as the rest of this stuff. But, you come out of that stretch, again, anything other than 0-3, you got a chance. You win 2 of them, you're probably sniffing the top 25, or you are sniffing the top 25. You come out of there and somehow win all 3, you're a top 10 team. This is 2007 all over again.
Yeah.
This is Matt Grothe and the South Florida Bulls at number 2 in the country in the BCS. You lose all 3, you risk the whole thing imploding. And that's my fear. That is my big fear for South Florida. And that's why, like, when I'm looking at South Florida playing Navy late in the year, I'm thinking, what mental state is this South Florida team in by that time in the year? Because, you get a little breather, right? You get South Carolina State and Charlotte after those 3 games. But then, Jeff, you're at North Texas, you get FAU, you're at Memphis, UTSA, and then you're at Navy. So, I mean, are you confident they're winning all of those? I'm not.
This is about as
it's
bad
brutal. It gets worse for them every year.
As the middle MTSU treatment as I've seen since we had, Michigan and Alabama in the same schedule year.
Something like that.
I mean, it's brutal. There's no way about it, but you got Byron Brown. Hopefully he's healthy. He got hurt last year. You saw Bryce Archie a lot, so he got a lot of experience. I think you got a relatively deep quarterback room, but that's not necessarily a good thing to have. Byron Brown's got to stay healthy. Dual threat guy, can throw it all over the field, can run when he needs to. You've got a ton of talent around him. Running backs, you got Cartavius Norton, comes over from Charlotte. You got Sam Franklin, who transfers from Oklahoma by way of UT Martin. And at Martin, he had 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. So you got backs, you got receivers. Kashawn Singleton comes back, 6'3", 210. You got Chaz Nimrod, transfers from Tennessee, who, I mean, you just get the guy, him the ball in space. He's shifty. He can make guys miss in the middle. And then, you got Josh Porter back as well. So you got a lot of pieces offensively coming back. And then defensively, the same thing. 8 starters return. This linebacking core might be one of the best in the American. You talk about the mental state by the end of the season, Sprouse. What about the physical state that this team could potentially be in after that? And that's what we've talked about with Middle for years is you get so beat up in the first 3-4 weeks of the season, you're limping into conference. And you can't be down 2-3 starters, whether it's on the O-line or at a skill position. Like, the depth is an issue for all teams in the group of 5. So really, I had them as a contender. Schedule wise, it's they avoid Tulane and Army in conference, but it is not an easy slate. My goodness.
Yeah, it's not. The one thing physically that I think does help them, they're really big on the offensive line. They're all 300 plus. They're all 6'4" plus. It's a really big, solid offensive line. Going to be a really good offensive line that's going to obviously get tested immediately with Boise. You're going to get Jaden Virgin Morgan coming off the edge in Boise. You're going to get Florida. You're going to get Miami. Defensive line, you talked about the linebackers. All I got to do, Jeff, is list the numbers of their defensive line, and I like it. I mean, number 4, defensive end, Michael Williams, 2 sacks last year. But yeah, I'm interested. Number 40 at nose. That's an interesting. It's kind of a
Rudy Rudiger number.
Ugly. Yeah, it's an ugly defensive line number. But Jacob Merrifield coming over from FAU. And then number 8, defensive tackle Josh Celisar, Texas A&M, Central Florida, where he played a bunch at UCF. Didn't play a ton at Texas A&M. But, man, playing defense in this conference, this is the tough part about this conference, too. It's brutal because you're going to get these wide-open offenses like FAU and North Texas. But then you're going to turn around and play Army or Navy or Rice this year, and you're going to get an option-style offense. And then you're going to get a Memphis or a Tulane, which is going to be more of your balanced style. So you're just seeing everything in this conference. It's not every, Conference USA, pretty much everybody's wide open. They're going to throw it all over the place. This is, you're seeing every type of offense. You're seeing you're seeing the pro-style quarterbacks. You're seeing the dual threat quarterbacks. You're seeing the option stuff. I mean, so I'm just looking at South Florida. I can't stop looking at their schedule, just thinking, you feel bad. You feel bad. But again, if you come out 0-3, again, you can still win the conference. It has no effect on the conference. But if you come out 1-2 even, or 2-1 especially, like you are in a really good spot, because you're going to be, especially if you mess around a bit. The Boise game to me is more important than the other two, because again, when you're talking about conference champions and highest ranked, if you assume Boise State wins the Mountain West, and if South Florida ends up winning the American with a head-to-head over Boise, then you got a pretty good argument. And then when they get into all the strength of schedule stuff that they love to get into, you're probably going to have, so long as you don't get blown out too terribly by Florida or Miami. And look, remember last year, the final score looked like Miami blew them out, but that was a tight game up until late in the fourth quarter. And then we saw how good Miami ended up being, especially on offense. So I think, be cautious, but you got a chance. You got a chance. If you stay healthy, you got a chance to navigate this conference. You're okay.
You're telling me there's a chance. That's all I need.
I'm telling you, unfortunately, Jeff, it's probably like a 7-5 team.
Yeah.
But
it's a tough schedule, man.
Hadn't
seen a tougher one yet in the group of 5. So,
yeah. No, group of 5, Jeff, across the country, dude.
Well, yeah, for sure.
They don't
I was
have.
just saying specifically as we've gone through the previews.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. That's all you got for favorites and contenders?
That's it.
How many dark horses do you have? I have 2.
I have 2. Got 2.
North Texas, I've got.
I have them too.
Okay. Let's talk about them.
Go for it.
I talked about Reese Poffenberger earlier in the show. I think anytime you have a guy like that, he gives your offense a chance. And we saw their offense last year. They gave him a chance in a lot of games. I also think they're going to be good. I talked about all the offensive lines in this conference. I think they're going to be pretty good up front. Defense has been the question mark at North Texas. Last year, 34.2 points per game, 37 points a game the year before that. They do, however, bring in the defensive coordinator from Sam Houston, who also brought a bunch of guys from that Sam Houston defense that was pretty damn good last year. They play Western Michigan, play a good South Alabama team, Washington State in the non-conference. It's not, it's good, it's solid. It's not crazy. You have Army, South Florida, UTSA, and Navy in the conference. So I'm looking at this North Texas team, and I think they're going to be the team that just scores a ton of points. So, they'll beat somebody on there that they shouldn't. And that's why I have them as a dark horse, because they'll surprise somebody and screw up somebody's season. But when I look at Army, South Florida, UTSA, Navy, Washington State, South Alabama, Western Michigan, I'm thinking you're going to get more than one or maybe 2 of those. And then if you don't get more than 1 or 2 of those, you're looking at another 5-7 season. So that's where I'm looking at North Texas. I think offensively they're going to be really good. I think defense they'll be better by bringing over the defensive coordinator and all the Sam Houston guys. But again, schedule for them, especially in conference, is pretty tough.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of on the flip side a little bit, not a lot, about their schedule. But, Eric Morris, year in and year out, gets absolutely rated from skill positions offensively, and he seems to reload every year. I mean, if you look at their record, right, and the games they played, it's the number 1 offense ranked in the American with some really good offenses. So they're going to be able to score. Simeon Evans comes over from Sam Houston, receiver. I think this kid's going to have a breakout year. Had good numbers while I was at Sam Houston, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. But that's in a run-dominant offense with a quarterback who struggles to throw. So it's going to be very interesting to watch this kid get an opportunity and get a whole ton of targets. Obviously, Wyatt Young returns. You got Miles Coleman, who's back, who's a crafty wideout. But, you get South Florida, UTSA, and Navy all at home. Now, they don't have a great home field advantage, but it's just being in that stadium that you're comfortable in, all the things that you're used to, where you don't have to play in the Alamo Dome. You don't have to go to Tampa where it's super hot and humid. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the cadets or at Navy. So if they can handle their business against UAB, Rice, and Temple, in my opinion, and then you know, can beat a South Florida or maybe beat a Navy, you avoid Tulane, you avoid Memphis. You could find yourself in the mix late in the season potentially. Who knows? I think you're going to end up having a 3, potentially 4-way tie in this conference to see who goes in the conference championship anyways. So it's going to be interesting. But I have them as a dark horse. I think North Texas is going to be better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, and that's where you talk about having the 3 or 4 team tie. I think team like North Texas and this next team I'm going to talk about are going to be the team that messes it up for one of them, right? Like somebody's going to lose a game to one of these teams that they shouldn't, and it ruins their season. But I do think they'll be quite a bit better defensively, and I think Reese Poffenberger, he could be. You never know, right? He could come out and just set records, and they just don't need to be that good on defense. They just outscore everybody. But
he had all the numbers at Albany.
Yes, he did.
Take it for what it's worth. Got to, definitely a level up of competition, right? But Eric Morris has churned out quarterbacks with tons of production, so I don't expect anything different.
Who else do you have as a dark horse?
I have the FAU Owls.
Oh, bingo! Me too.
That's who I had. Zach Kitley in year 1. I talked about Caden Veltkamp coming over from Western Kentucky, and probably one of his best friends, I assume, just knowing how, quarterback receiver combos are. Easton Messer comes over from Western, had 55 receptions, 800 yards, and 4 touchdowns a year ago. Expect that to be even higher. Kitley loves to throw the ball. You're going to get in 4 or 5 wide and let this Veltkamp kid spin it. And then you get, advantageous boxes, 5-man boxes. Even when you go 5 wide, expect quarterback draw. Veltkamp can run. I think this offense is going to be really fun to watch. You get J.R. Wilson that leaves Virginia, comes down to this offense where they're going to throw it a bunch. 6'4", 210 pounds. Kid has the frame. He can run. And Kitley knows how to get guys in great matchups on the outside. So I don't know if they're going to be able to stop anybody. But I know they're going to be able to score. And sometimes that's all you need. You got anything on the defense? You got a lot of transfers coming in.
Right.
That's just one of the things that worries me.
That's what I have. The D line is okay, right? Of course, because they got one of my guys, Jeff.
I know it.
Number 7, 6'3", 300, Bryce Langston, LSU transfer, but again, he hadn't played. You know what I mean? He's got the frame. He looks the part. He's going to wear a single digit as an interior defensive lineman, so they obviously think he's something. But he hadn't played a whole bunch. But I think they'll be very similar to North Texas, right, in a way that they're going to have to outscore anybody that they win. I will say this, Zach Kitley, we talked about earlier, this is the guy that came over to Western Kentucky with Bailey Zappi from Houston Baptist, now Houston Christian. I got a feeling Coach Kitley and Caden Veltkamp I got a hunch they're going to like these South Florida guys. I think he's going to enjoy figuring out a way to get some of those athletes in space. And Veltkamp's going to enjoy throwing to some of these guys. The difference between who we have as favorites and contenders versus who we have as a dark horse. And then there's 1 or 2 other ones that I have in the next tier. All these teams have, like North Texas FAU, good quarterback, big time offense. They're going to throw it all over the place, but they're suspect on defense, and they're not great on the offensive line. The teams that are the favorites, maybe they don't necessarily have like the big time transfer quarterback. They got a quarterback, but they're really good on the offensive line and they're really good on defense. And those are the teams. This has been the story for years. Everybody's tried to go to this spread, high-powered offense, but in every level of football, every single level of football, can you run the ball? Can you protect the quarterback? Can you stop the run? Can you get after the quarterback? So if you're not good on the offensive line and the defensive line, then you can't do any of those things. So that's the big difference. Like these guys, you have the skill guys. You have great skill guys all over the field. There's going to be athletes. They got a great quarterback. They're going to put up crazy numbers every week. But when it comes down to winning games, and especially winning championships, can you run the ball? Can you stop the run? Can you protect the quarterback? Can you get after the quarterback? Don't know that North Texas and FAU will be able to do that. That's all you got for dark horses?
That's it.
So I have a team that I think I was very close to putting in the dark horse category. I didn't. Because I feel like I maybe not. I didn't really look. We always kind of put this team as their dark horse. And that's the old Pirates, East Carolina. I didn't put them as there. I put them as maybe next year. I do want to say, Jeff, I was the first human being on the planet to call for Blake Harrell to keep that job as the full-time coach. I just want to publicly acknowledge that again, that I was the first one to call for that. They finished the season with a ton of momentum, including a bowl win against NC State, who they opened the season with this year. Problem is, it's a completely different team than the team that had all that momentum. The other thing that they ran into last year, it didn't matter which quarterback they put in there, they could not protect the ball whatsoever. Every quarterback they put in there was throwing interceptions. So Hauser seems like he's going to be the guy this year. He's QB1 this year. There's no debate about it. He's got some weapons. He got Petaway coming over from Oklahoma. Marlon Gunn at running back, 5.5 yards per carry almost over his 3-year career. So he's got a chance now as the feature back to, take that 5.5 yards a carry and, multiply it over 18 to 20 carries, right? He's as the number one guy. But like I just talked about, I'm not sure about their offensive line. Not really sure about their defense. I think they got good skill positions. I think they got a pretty good quarterback. But again, compared to the rest of the conference, I don't think that they're physically on the same level as the Memphis, the Tulane, the UTSAs, the Army Navy of the world.
Yeah, I mean, Caden Hauser for me has got to make a big jump. That like for the Pirates to really go, he's got to be one that takes the team to the next level. And I just haven't seen it. 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year. It's not great. He's able to run the ball. He had 4 rushing touchdowns, but I'm just not sure if he's made the improvements in the offseason. Now we'll see. I'm just not sure he's physically got, it, if that makes sense. Just based off of me watching him here. Now I've been wrong before. Guys have come in the offseason and put in the work and really, really turned it around. Because they have some guys on the outside receiver-wise that can go and get it. I mean, Anthony Smith comes over, 6'3", 190 from NC State, was productive there. It defensively worries me. Typically, they've always been pretty stingy on defense. I just don't know if I see a corner or a safety that's one of those guys. I mean, Jamarly Riddle is good, but I don't know if he's kind of the NFL caliber type of corner we've seen from them. And then, D-line wise, there's just a lot of question marks. So, and then you look at their schedule. I think it's kind of difficult too, especially to start the year. I mean, you beat NC State last year, but like you mentioned, it's a different roster. So you open up on the road, and you get Campbell, and you get Coastal, who I think Coastal will be better, and then you get BYU at home, which is great. And with Retzlaff not being there, you don't really know what they're going to look like offensively. But I mean, you get all the top teams. I mean, you get Army, Tulane, Memphis, UTSA, FAU, Tulane. I mean,
yeah,
you got them all. So unless you got a dynamic quarterback that can really spin it, it's going to be tough sledding for the Pirates, I think.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I just think too many question marks and not enough certainties. I mean, maybe not any certainties. The main thing, though, right, is if Hauser can not turn it over. I mean, they turned it over. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I just remember every time I watch East Carolina, I mean, we're talking 3 and 4 interceptions a game, no matter who was in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't do that. If you cut that in half, you got a chance. So, that's got to be, I imagine that is like priority number 1 throughout spring, throughout camp, is just protect the ball and give us a chance, because if you don't, then you're going to get blown out, week to week in this conference. But everybody else I have in that category, everybody else, kind of maybe next year. Let's talk about Rice. It's a rebuild for Rice. They bring in the new coach from Davidson. They're going to go option style, Jeff. So I'm very interested to see what happens in the long term, in the short term and the long term, for now adding a third option type team. Like, what does that do to the other teams physically, right? I mean, you're always beat up after you play an option team. So what does it do to them? But then also, what does it do for scouting this offense? When you start seeing it every other week, you're going to start seeing an option offense. So does it make it more difficult on Army and Navy's offense, knowing that now there's another team that's going to give kind of a look for what they do? Now, I know it's not going to be the same, and nobody does it like the academies do it. But some of the assignments are the same. The scheme is kind of the same. The matchups, the matchup problems you're trying to create are the same. So interested to see what that does. But look, I mean, Rice, they had one little stretch, 3 years ago, where they started the season pretty good, and then they kind of fell apart, and it's just not been good there. You look at Davidson, last year they had 2 1,000-yard running backs. They barely threw it for 1,000 yards, so they ain't throwing the ball. I'm just not sure how quickly they'll be able to flip this roster to fit that. Right. I mean, when you look at, they're going to move a wide receiver. It looks like Chase Jenkins is going to move from wide receiver and be the quarterback. So obviously he's athletic enough to run it, but can he run it? You know what I mean? Can he read it? He came in, I think he came into Rice as a quarterback. They moved him to receiver. Now they're moving him back to quarterback to run the option. But on the offensive line, when you're used to, typically these guys are undersized, athletic guys. So if you've been recruiting big, heavy guys, and now you're going to ask them to be in 5-foot splits and running off the ball to go cut a linebacker on the backside of a play. Like, these guys haven't been doing that. So you'll see how many transfers they got to bring in, and how, and how quickly they can do it in recruiting. Defensively last year, they were pretty good. And then I do think going to the option is going to help the defense even more so, with the whole time of possession and all of those things that we talk about with Army and Navy. Tough conference draw for Rice, but Rice is weird, man. You look at Rice last year, they only won 4 games, but 4 games, they beat UTSA, they beat Navy, and they beat South Florida. Then they played Memphis pretty tight. They lost to Charlotte by 1, and then they played Tulane pretty tough. But then they go and get blown out by UAB. So they got to have some consistency there. But again, I think if they can run this offense, somewhat successfully, they'll be in every game because of time of possession. So we'll see. I think it's just a bit of a rebuild, but they'll be fine.
Well, here's the deal, Sprouse. I just don't know what to think about this offense. I spent a good amount of time watching it, and it's definitely like a shotgun version of the wing T, triple option, all those things. I'm just wondering, really just based off of angles, and I mean, you got some fast defenses that could flow to the ball, and unless you got the personnel, like you mentioned, it's either going to work or it could be tough sledding, because if you can't control time of possession and you're going 3 and out pretty quickly, because you don't have a proven quarterback that can do it. I mean, Chase Jenkins ran a lot of zone read option stuff in high school, but your other 2 guys on the roster are bigger, less athletic guys.
Yep.
So it's just going to be very interesting to see. Scott Abel's a good coach. He's 47-28. At Davidson, led the nation in rushing 5 years in a row. Can that transition to the American? It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to watch it. But
yeah, me too. I think it'll be fun, and
go right
I'm
away.
also and I'm also interested to see. Sorry to interrupt you, Jeff. if it doesn't work, right? You remember Army started trying to throw it all over the place, and they quickly went right back to the option because it wasn't working. So what adjustments will he make to it? I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's all you can really do. But another little wrinkle, another offense now that we're talking about. Like we talked about it watching these defenses. Now it's another similar to the option. You'll have a lot of the same gap assignments and those things, but it'll be a different thing to look at, and it'll be a pain for whoever the poor suckers are that got to play scout team offense that week. It's the worst, the worst. Although I would like to take a lot of credit, Jeff, for us beating Georgia Tech that year, because I was a phenomenal scout team guard that week. I mean, just phenomenal. But anyway, UAB, probably the hottest seat in the American Conference for Coach Dilfer. By the way, there was potentially some more drama up in Charlotte between Coach Dilfer and Coach Summerall.
Yeah, what was that?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Playing with each other.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. And I also don't know when Summerall tweets. I'm not real sure. He's got a little Lane Kiffin to him, where he's a little bit of a troll on Twitter. So I don't know. Like, supposedly UAB tweeted something about flying first class, and then John Summerall tweeted a picture of them on a private jet, the old PJ, and then but then like the media was tweeting about it being bad blood, but then Summerall tweeted a picture of them two like talking in the hall. I don't know, dude. I think they probably don't love each other, but they're professionals. You know what I mean? Like,
it's good for clicks.
It's great for clicks. I mean, it's great for both of them. But
so how's UAB going to be on the field this year?
I don't know. I mean, first thing that sticks out, they are trying to stop the run. Okay, I talked about that 2 teams ago. They're trying to stop the run. They brought in a bunch of big transfers on the defensive line. They're starting D-line this year. So last year, these guys were at Marshall, Old Dominion, Boston College, and Sam Houston. So those were 4 pretty good defenses, especially defensive lines last year. So that's their goal, right? To get some big defensive linemen, try to stop the run. They only had 18 sacks last year as a team. And gave up 213 rushing yards per game. You see why they went after defensive line. I mean, 18 sacks. I mean, that ain't getting it done. And I want to say, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say they gave up 30-something. So you're talking 3 a game, basically. Jalen Kitna could be good. I mean, he's got the potential. He's got the pedigree, right? And he's being coached by a guy that's got it. But he threw 11 interceptions and 8 starts last year. So I think it's in one of the magazines they were talking about. It's like if Trent Dilfer could just coach these guys to be like he was. I mean, game managed, dude.
Right.
Protect the damn ball, man. But
I think that's part of the problem, though, is with, UAB, what they have on their roster, you need somebody more that's a game manager. I don't think you have, the guys on the outside that can really go and get it, if you give them the ball in space. I was there last year in Birmingham for that Tulane, beatdown where Dilfer tried to kiss or whatever Coach Summerall, and just from top to bottom, they just didn't look good. They looked unorganized. Kitna didn't impress me. He wasn't mobile. He didn't, he's got a good arm, but was late on a lot of throws. So I'm just not sure if they have the guys to compete in this conference. Now we'll see. Defensively, they got to be better there for sure. And you brought in the beef on the defensive line and some pieces on defense. I just don't know if they have the talent on offense to really get it done in this conference. That's my concern. So
yeah, it's going to be tough.
And I think their conference, their schedule, you get Navy early, second game of the year, and you got to go on the road in Knoxville. And then right after that, and then you get a bye, but then you got Army, FAU, Memphis, UConn, who's a pretty good team. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the easiest of schedules either. So, I don't know. And the fans, I'm not sure if the fans are sold on Dilfer either, to be quite honest. Not that it matters.
Well, I don't think the fans are sold on UAB as an athletic program right now. I mean, there's a lot of negativity, right? It was a couple months ago when they, tweeted out some merch, and it was like a very basic, like where you could just see that it was a cropped logo, like placed on a t-shirt or a hat. And there's just a lot of kind of small time stuff happening in that athletic department that the fans are not too excited about. They want the damn Blazer logo on their merch, and they can't get it. All they can get is freaking block UAB. And then, of course, last year, it was during the season or preseason. I mean, he just tends to say a lot of the wrong stuff. I mean, you remember when he said, hey, who cares if my grandkid's up here? It's not like this is Alabama. And then he went and he was talking about playing volleyball somewhere else and how it was such a great place in like Louisville or something. I don't know. He just not very timely with a lot of the things that he says. Will piss off a fan base. Now, hey, you go in there and win a few games, so all that goes away. And so,
yep.
But I'm just not seeing it. All right, Jeff, you got the hat on. What about Charlotte?
Man, I'm excited for Charlotte. I think, Tim Albin's one of the better coaches in the country, and he did a great job at Ohio. You get Connor Harrell transferring over from North Carolina. Doesn't have a ton of experience, but the kid's a good athlete. Can make plays with his feet when he needs to, has a good arm. But I didn't see a ton of, timing routes and zone coverage. A lot of it was just a lot of go balls on his film. And then you get Grayson Loftus, transfers from Duke, who had a lot of time in 2023. And I thought he did a lot of good things, kind of opposite of what Harrell did, was throwing on time, throwing in windows, throwing guys open, but you didn't see a lot of deep shots. So I'm not sure who they're going to go with at quarterback, but I think they'll be able to run the ball. That's what Tim Albin wants to do. He's had great running backs at Ohio. You get C.J. Stokes. He didn't play after week 2 last year, but he seems to be healthy and be back. Rutledge is back. Gainey's back. So you've got a lot of continuity there. And then you got some pieces on the outside that transfer in. Jaden McGowan transfers from Boston College. You got Ejai Mason from Stanford, who had 460 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. Offensive line-wise, you add a lot of guys in the portal. So as long as you can find a group, that can mesh and really, fit together, I think Charlotte has a better year offensively, especially. But I think they got a tough slate opening up. I mean, App State's going to be good, but it's kind of a, I use the term rivalry game, but it's going to have that feeling to it, right? And you got North Carolina, Monmouth, who's a good program. You do avoid Memphis and Navy, but South Florida, North Texas, UTSA, Tulane, and then, let's just throw in Georgia at the end of the year. Let's have that one right before we finish off.
A little cherry on top of that ice cream sundae, huh?
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what Tim Albin does. He's a program builder. He's a great coach. So really happy for Charlotte. Not sure year one. It's like a crazy, bowl type of season, but you never know. Never know.
Well, with Tim Albin, he takes over Ohio. They go 3-9 in year 1. Then they proceed to go 10-4, lose in the conference championship game. Then they go 10-4 again, and then they go 11-3 and win the conference last year. If you're Charlotte, you'll take that all day long, every season forever. It feels like Tim Albin, for some reason, it feels like he coached at Ohio for 30 years. Doesn't it?
It does feel that way.
It feels like he's just this old veteran guy. He's not, but their schedule's not favorable. One thing though, you talked about running the ball. Last year Ohio as a team ran for about 3,000 yards. Anthony Tyus, their number 1 guy, was 22nd in the country in rushing yards. So they're going to run the ball. You talked about some of those guys. One guy you did not mention, just because he's a South Florida guy, I got to talk about him. Don Chaney, transfer from Louisville by way of Miami, was a big-time recruit out of high school. And he had a good freshman year at Miami, and then a not great sophomore year. And then he transferred to Louisville and had a good first year. And when I say good, 400 or 500 yards, solid seasons, especially for a freshman. He had good first year at Louisville, and then last year not so good. So now he comes into Charlotte. Maybe he has a good first year at Charlotte and can put up some big numbers there. But defense was so bad last year. They bring in some guys. They bring in Braden Mullen, all Ivy League last year at defensive end. So, and here's the thing too. You bring in an Ivy League guy. That's a culture guy, right? That's going to be a tough, smart player, right? Shea Taylor comes over from Ohio, 72 tackles and 3 sacks last year. And then they return Reed Williford, had 77 tackles last year at linebacker. So I think defense will be a little bit better. Like, for the 5th time I've said on the show, right, run the ball, stop the run, all those things. Like, they're going to try to do it. They're going to be better at doing it. They're just not going to be good enough to win a whole lot of games in year one. Now, we've been to Charlotte 3 times, I think just twice. It's a special place, and now I think they got a program builder. So it's one of those sleeping giants, if you will.
No doubt.
Over there in Charlotte, that can be one of the many. I mean, look, state of North Carolina, they got good high school ball. They got however many good FBS programs in the state, and Charlotte can very easily be one of them.
And if there's somebody that knows a lot about Tim Albin, our guy Dan Savage in the chat goes, this isn't Toledo enough, but I'll tell you what, Albin will figure out Charlotte. In 4 years, they win 9 to 10 games. Agree?
Book it. I mean, I wouldn't even really put it at 4. I mean, I'd 2 or 3. Similar situation, I feel like, Jeff, is Temple and Casey Keeler. I think that's a big time get for Temple. They have been 3-9 in all 4 of the last season. So if you're a betting man, I don't know what their over under is. I bet it's 2.5. Take the over. It'll be 3. They'll get 3. I mean, he had 10 wins at Sam Houston in their second FBS season. So, and he had Sam Houston as a very good contender. I remember I had him as a dark horse their first year in Conference USA. I was dead wrong about that, but in their second year, they were really damn good. Brings over Jay Ducker with him, who ran for 745 yards last year. And in 2021, Jay Ducker had 1,200 yards at NIU. So he's a pretty good back. I'm probably I don't know how much you got on the quarterback, Giovanni McCoy. He can be a pretty dynamic player.
Yes, he can.
Threw for almost 6,000 yards at Idaho and then had a pretty solid season at Oregon State last year, but I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about him is true dual threat type of guy, can throw it. It's got a good arm, but, likes to get outside of the pocket and make things happen, and he can take it the distance. He is a great athlete, but I like having him and Ducker in the backfield at the same time. I think that's just a great 1-2 punch, and you get in some quarterback run stuff, and now you pick up an extra blocker in the run game. So he's got, there's talent on the outsides there. I worry a little bit that Keeler's, at least at Sam Houston, I'll put it this way, very run dominant program. So, you got to have the big guys up front to make that happen. And wasn't impressed with necessarily the type of concepts in the pass game they ran at Sam Houston. So when you got a guy like McCoy, and I don't know, maybe that was because of the quarterback they had down there. So excited to see what this offense is going to look like with a guy like McCoy who can run around and throw it. I just think that their schedule is rough. I mean, you get UMass and Howard to open up, but then you get Oklahoma at UMass, at Georgia Tech, UTSA, Navy. That 4-game stretch. I mean, you got 2 very good programs in the country, and then you get 2 of the top dogs in this conference. So, can you get through that stretch, relatively healthy? I don't know. I just think, and then you at the end of your schedule, you got Army, Tulane, ECU, North Texas. So you're playing some really, really good offenses. And I know Keeler's thing has kind of been defense and run the ball. You're just asking a lot in your first year to get your defense ready to go to face some of these potent offenses.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, for a lot of these teams, it's just the top of the conference, the top half of the conference is really, really good. So it's just going to be tough. A lot of them will be better, but so will the better teams. And so, excuse me, that's where I'm just not seeing the wins. Last team we got to talk about, Jeff, Tulsa. Now, we had a chance to talk to Trey Lamb a couple months ago before spring ball. I'll tell you this. I like Trey Lamb. I think he's got his finger on the pulse of that city. I mean, he was giving us knowledge, had no idea about the city of Tulsa. So I think he's got his finger on the pulse. What's crazy to me, Jeff, it's hard to believe that Tulsa was playing Cincinnati in the AAC title game in 2020. And they won 2020 Tulsa won 6 straight games, including ranked win at UCF and at home versus SMU. And then they have gotten progressively worse since then. And so I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's possible for Trey Lamb or for anybody to get them back, but you bring back 5 starters on offense, 5 starters on defense, but they weren't good at either of those last year. So sometimes you will bring back 8, 9 starters. Who cares? They weren't good. I mean, it's maybe you don't want them same guys coming back. You want new guys that can beat them out of the spot. But defensively, they gave up 42.5 points a game, almost 500 yards a game their defense gave up. They're very inexperienced on the offensive side of the ball, on the offensive line especially, compared to the rest of this conference. Just not a ton of ball together. A little worried about old Tulsa, Jeff.
You know, I'm a little higher on Tulsa.
Are you really?
Maybe than you are. I think the first year is going to be tough. It's a transition year. You're trying to get your guys in, right? Build your culture. But Kirk Francis returns back. Excuse me. 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 picks. Split time last year with Cooper Lega, journeyman. I feel like he's been around everywhere. You have 3 transfers coming in the running back room, so they're all going to be fighting it out during camp. Sevion Morrison from Kansas, Ajay Allen from Miami by way of Nebraska, Dominic Richardson from Baylor. So a lot of unproven backs in that room, but, somebody's got to cream rise to the top. So we'll see who that is. I think on the outside receiver spot, they actually got some guys that can really go out and get it. Zion Booker transferred from Western Carolina, 540 yards, 4 touchdowns a year ago. Mekhi Miller transferred from Mizzou. I think he's got a chance to lead this group. I really do. The guy's a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. And then you got Micah Tease, transfers from Texas A&M, has a lot of upside physically. But as I was looking him up, came across a little news story why he left Texas A&M was because he got in some legal trouble. So if he can, keep on the straight and narrow, who knows, and play some football, kid could be really good. I just think Trey Lamb's a good coach. Comes from a great family pedigree. It's going to take a couple years, but as he explained in the interview, donor base is there. You got a lot of old money in Tulsa. So I like Trey Lamb. I like this program. Their schedule's really not all that bad. You open up with Abilene Christian, New Mexico State on the road. Those are 2 very winnable games to start it off before you got to play Navy, and you get Navy at home. Oklahoma State's next on the road. They're not a good program. They're going to be one of the bottom teams in that conference. But then you get to the meat of your conference, and Tulane at home, Memphis on the road. You get FAU down the line, Army on the road, and you got Oregon State mixed in there as well. So I don't know what their over-under line is set at, but I'd be tempted, if it's at like 2.5 or 3.5, I'd be tempted to take the over.
Really? I'm trying to look it up.
Not sure what it is. See if Google can get it.
3.5.
Let's look at this.
Jeff.
Abilene Christian, New Mexico State, Temple, UAB.
I mean,
it's doable.
Sure. All right. I'm rooting for Tulsa.
I am too. Good friend.
I'd like to get out there.
Yeah.
All right. Biggest game. Give me your biggest non-conference game or games. Who you got?
Non-conference, obviously, to start the year. Boise at South Florida is a massive game with massive implications. And I think every fan, if your team is in the American, probably rooting for South Florida on that one because it has playoff implications down the line.
100%.
I also had the game you mentioned, I believe earlier, Texas State rematch in the Alamo Dome, September 6th. That game is going to be absolutely cracking. Wish we could make that one.
Yeah, I wish we could too. I'll add another one that's going to be cracking that I think we will make, and that is Darian Mensah and the 20% agents coming back to New Orleans. Duke at Tulane. Going to be awesome. And then not only for that environment, but Tulane's got to win that one now. You got Northwestern, Ole Miss, and Duke. You got 3 Power 4 games. Like you gotta get one, probably 2 of them. You know, if you want to have a shot at this
Duke's
thing.
Duke's going to be a good team, I think.
Duke?
I think so.
Yeah, well,
Tulane can beat him. I'm just saying it's
the old Middle Tennessee staff, Jeff. We know they're going to be good.
Right, that's true.
We just had them when they were 24 years old as coordinators. Right. The other one I got is Navy at Notre Dame because of the common opponent situation with a Boise State. As well as, look, last year, Navy and Army went to Notre Dame and got smoked, and kind of it softened how good the American Conference was last year. Now Notre Dame obviously ended up being really, really good, and it wasn't just a typical Notre Dame team. It was a national championship level Notre Dame team. So I think Navy wants to right that ship a little bit, and Notre Dame's got high expectations as well. What about in conference? I've got one mainly. This is only because Navy at Memphis, Thanksgiving Day, just like last year when Tulane went to Memphis, Thanksgiving Day. Memphis is always a tough place to play. Thanksgiving weekend is always like a tough weekend to play because of all the other things that go on. You're going to play a Thursday night. It's probably going to be the only game on TV. Huge, huge implications. You talked about there being a 3, 4, 5 team, mashup at the end of the season. Well, winner of that game could find themselves in the championship game.
Very nice. I got a couple. Tulane at UTSA in the Alamo Dome, October 30th, is a game that has massive implications for both teams because both schedules have tough matchups in it on their conference slate, but that one's big for both. And I think the winner of that puts himself in a really nice position to make the conference championship game. I also have UTSA at South Florida November 6th. I think that is another game where UTSA needs that one and UTSA needs that Tulane game, and they are sitting very, very pretty. But going to Tampa, playing who knows what type of shape the South Florida Bulls are going to be in by November. Hopefully they've gotten healthy if they've been banged up, but that's going to be a great one to watch. Just 2 great teams going at it. That's the 2 that I had. Tried to keep it limited.
Jeff, you ready to make a prediction? Do we have voicemails, by the way?
We got 2. Or no, we got 3. We had a late one this afternoon.
So let's make a championship prediction, and then let's get to the voicemails. Schedules are the defining factor for my pick here. And that is why I think that the championship game will be hosted for the 2nd straight year by a military academy, this time in Annapolis, Maryland. Navy hosts. Man, they lose to UTSA in the American Championship game. I don't like my pick at all, but I'm going with it, and I'm going to ride with it.
It's very, very plausible that happens because Navy's schedule sets up just absolutely fantastic for them. UTSA is one of the top teams in the conference. They got the quarterback. They got every piece they could possibly want on that team. I think there's going to be some type of 3-way, 4-way potential tie with teams that have 1 loss, and they've all kind of beat each other. So I'm not super confident about how the tiebreaker works because it goes into winning percentage against common opponents. But this is what I'm going with. I think UTSA does make the championship game.
Really?
And I think the newly added Jake Retzlaff coming in gets Tulane over the top with that fantastic defense. So I think those two meet in a rematch in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome for a second time. It's very hard to beat a good team twice, Browse. I think
very difficult.
Tulane wins the American championship this year, led by their defense and their quarterback. That's who I got.
I like it. Well, let's get to these voicemails. Look, if you've been listening to the show, you don't like what we said, you love what we said, you have a little nugget of information that we didn't get to, make sure you call the hotline at 615-900-4286. Keep it 3 minutes or less. We'll play it on the show. Jeff, let's hear what we got.
Guys, this is Wyoming Ben. What's going on? Caught every episode this off season. I know you haven't heard from me, but excited football's coming back. Sprouse, congrats on the baby. My wife actually just gave birth to 2 future Cowboys back in March as well, so I'm having my hands full this football season. All right, I think I've decided who my favorite Group of 5 guys host is now, and I can tell you it's not the guy wearing the Fort Air Raid hat. It's a good-looking hat you got, Sprouse. Jeff,
great hat.
Not as much. Thoughts on the Mountain West show you guys did? I think with the transfer portal, I've kind of decided that the only thing we really can tell season to season, unfortunately, is that Boise State's going to be good. I really don't know what to expect from anyone else. I mean, these teams turn over so much year to year. I'm sad to see people like Devin Dampier, Torrey Horton, Ashton Genty leave the conference. They brought a lot of excitement, but we'll be seeing Dampier again this year as he's coming to Laramie with Utah. Jeff, I think I'm a little higher on Caden Anderson than you are. I thought he took a few steps last year, and I'm hoping with this offseason he can take another one. But I think you had a pretty good assessment of Wyoming overall. I think they're probably still another year away. The last thing I wanted to tell you guys, though, is the person to look out for to get the ball is John Michael Gillenborg, the tight end. Looked pretty good the last couple of years, but last year he missed the first 2 games of the year with a high ankle sprain. And I think that bothered him throughout the rest of the season. So we're looking for a bigger year from him this year. Anyways, God bless Group of 5. God bless Group of 5, guys. Go, folks.
Appreciate you, Ben. Sorry, man.
Twins, huh?
That's crazy.
I couldn't imagine.
People who have twins they are different. Kudos to you. Different breed.
You know what typically happens, and I don't know what Ben's situation is. You know what happens a lot? Like, let's say somebody in you and I's position, Jeff. You got 3 boys, right? You think you're done. Maybe you're done. Maybe you're not. Maybe you want to try one more time, or maybe you have an accident. That's the one that'll be twins.
No doubt.
So then you just, really put yourself in a tough spot. But anyway, yeah, that Wyoming hat, very similar to this one, except for it's got the patch and the rope.
Yeah, that Wyoming one's dope. It's a great hat.
It's pretty good. The game caps. Check them out.
Next one.
Hey, Group of 5 guys. Sean from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, calling back. Thanks for taking my time to humor my nonsense on your call here. Looking forward to hearing you talk about the Mountain West, honestly. So I got a couple questions. If you were to pick a team in the Mountain West to be a stock to sell, who would it be this year? And if it were one to buy, who would it be? So each of those, I'm kind of curious who you see as risers and fallers. And the future of the Mountain West, I'm curious your take on this. It's fancy for a lot of these conferences to say, hey, go add a Directional Dakota or one of the Big Sky powerhouses. But I'm curious what you think the landscape of the Mountain West looks like going forward. And the last thing, I'm going to go off script a little bit, and it's July 21st, 7/21, which the world today is an indication. I think it's good just to share this with you all. Is the gospel of Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Just want to part that on you. God bless you guys. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Appreciate you, Sean, and amen.
God bless you. God bless you, Sean.
I know mine too. I'm high.
Go ahead.
I'm high on the Rainbow Warriors, my friend. I think the Rainbow Warriors. I'm buying. I'm buying Timmy Chang and the Warriors. How about you?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I would, for like a return on my investment, maybe San Jose State. I'm buying. Selling. Oof. I don't know.
Selling stuff. I'm not going to say I'm going to sell them per se, but I'm not so sure about UNLV.
Man, that's a good one. That's what I was kind of going to say. Well, that would be, again, that would be like a good.
Yet. I'm not selling yet.
That might be a good decision because your stock's high right now, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's high on them, so it might be a good time if you think it's going to fall. But it's a good one. Anyway, what else we got?
Let's get to our last one.
Hey, fellas, Morgan here. Sorry I left the show late, but wanted to at least get a voicemail in. I know you probably have a ton of these for the show tonight, so I'll try to keep this one quick. So I'll give you the quick list of reasons why I'm excited for the upcoming year. Number one, the schedule. I mean, no other Group of 5 team can touch our schedule, and I think if we make hay against Duke and Northwestern and possibly even at Ole Miss, so that one's going to be a challenge. I think we're in the catbird seat for one of the CFP slots. Second reason, I think our defensive line, it could quite possibly be the best in Tulane history, and I think quite possibly one of the best in not just the Group of 5, but I think the whole nation. You're talking about a 2-deep level group of guys that can really get after it, so I'm really excited to see what they can do. And number 3 is the versatility on both sides of the ball. I think especially at running back, we're going to see much more of a multiple attack between Arnold Barnes and Gavin Gordon and Jamari McClure as well. And then I think at wide receiver, we don't have a pinpoint number 1 right now, at least at the beginning of camp. But I think there's a group of guys there that are very talented and can do a lot of different things. So I'm really excited. We have a lot of good leadership of this team. Obviously, can't forget about the QB room. I'm fascinated to see how that shakes out. I think you're going to see Rhett Schlaff probably, if not start week 1, I think he's probably the starter by week 2 or 3. It's going to ask a lot of him to pick up the entire playbook by the end of August. But I'm really, really excited about this team, and why wouldn't I be? So I think it's going to be a great year overall for the league. There's a lot of talent between Memphis, UTSA, USF. So I'm really excited to see what happens. But one more thing before I go, roll damn wave. See you, fellas. Bye.
Appreciate old Morgan.
Morgan's a dude. Stopped by the deli the other day. I wasn't there, but
did he really?
Appreciate you supporting the brand, my friend.
Yeah, a lot to be excited about. Not just for Tulane, but he talked about it. There's so much talent in this conference. I mean, we talked about 6 or 7 teams that are, got a pretty real shot at it.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty exciting. I mean, it might be, top to bottom, like it's the deepest this conference has been.
So deep.
And it's it's almost like the Sun Belt, I think top to bottom is still like the most competitive, like top and bottom. There's not a whole lot of separation. I think right now you look at the top of this conference and it's probably better, but the bottom is probably worse. But like
they're coming though.
Oh yeah.
Some great coaches.
Yep.
At some of these schools that are I think they'll be trending up.
Yeah.
So,
ain't no doubt about it. Is that all we got voicemail wise?
Almost another 2-hour show. 14 teams.
14 teams.
Then
we got Maction next week, and then we'll follow it up with the Sun Belt, and then we got week 0, Jeff.
We do.
Then we are in the thick of it. If you haven't seen them, go check out our Mountain West preview from last week, Conference USA preview from the week before. I'll actually be making a personal trip up to see Pete Lembo and the Buffalo Bulls. You know, I love the South Florida Bulls. I like the Buffalo Bulls this year too. So I'll be making a trip up there this weekend to confirm what I already know. But then we'll be hitting the MAC preview on Monday night. We'll be hitting the Sun Belt the following Monday night. Make sure you hit the follow button on all the social platforms at Group of Five Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. Most important thing you could do is tell your family and friends to check out the show. Have a great week. We're out of here.